In a lot of ways, drafts are random, but people across baseball had Austin Martin circled as one of the guys ahead of the 2020 MLB draft. He ends up going number 5 to the Toronto Blue Jays, which means there is excitement for baseball in this city and in this country right now. Jim Callis of MLB.com said he's the best pure hitter in the draft, and Jim joins me now. So I'll ask you first, Jim, how did he fall to 5?
I think it's really a signability issue. The baseball draft is different from the other drafts.
Yeah.
It's not just how good you are. There are bonus pools, and the bonus pools were tighter this year. They're usually based on the first 10 rounds of the draft. There are only 5 rounds this year, so you had teams looking, I think even a little bit more than usual, knowing exactly what a guy was going to sign for and how you were going to budget your other picks mattered a lot. And Baltimore, I knew Baltimore liked him. I never thought Baltimore absolutely loved him, that he was clearly their guy. And I think what happened with Baltimore, where most of us thought he was going to go number 2 after Spencer Torkelson went number 1, is I think they looked at what they thought it was going to cost for him and had other guys who they rated as similar players, and they cut a deal with Heston Kjerstad. And by doing that, and Heston Kjerstad's a good player, I think it surprised people because nobody predicted that in any of these mocks. Yeah. He's a good player. He's a legit guy, and they used that savings to go get high-priced high school guys in the 4th or 5th round who it looks like they're going to be able to sign. And then, so 3rd was the Marlins, and we could see, now looking back, I think the Marlins took all pitchers, and they started off with Max Meyer, who's the most electric arm. That one was kind of interesting because I actually thought it was like maybe 55-45 Baltimore taking Martin. I knew there was a good chance that they might not. You just couldn't get a feel. Miami scouting director, DJ Zvilic, actually recruited Martin his 1 year when he was a coach on the Vanderbilt coaching staff. And I think a lot of us thought that if he got to 3, not that DJ was just going to take him because of the Vanderbilt ties, but that was going to be his guy. But the Marlins literally took all pitching in all 5 rounds of the draft. So they went with Max Meyer. And then Kansas City, I think, was surprised, expecting that one of the teams ahead of them was going to take Asa Lacy, who was kind of the consensus top pitcher in the draft, although, rated very close to Meyer. So they look up, and all of a sudden he's there. And then Martin goes to the Blue Jays. I think one thing from a player standpoint that hurt Austin a little bit is he did not throw well this spring. He looked a little hesitant and tentative on his throws. He spent a week at third base. Then he moved to center field. So there was some question on what position he was going to play. Going into the spring, people were hoping he'd be their shortstop, and you could evaluate him there. I think Toronto did announce him as a shortstop, right?
Yeah, that was the announcement.
Yeah, and so, which makes sense. You try the guy at the most challenging position you could possibly handle. But I think because of the throwing issues, it wasn't like he, was Steve Sachs and he couldn't throw, but he looked tentative. The arm didn't look as strong as it had in the past. So there's some questions. Could he play on the left side of the infield? And if he can't, could he play center field? Because he's got good instincts, but he's more of a solid runner than a plus runner. So you had a little bit – the guys at the top are under such a microscope, and I think that happened to Austin a little bit too. So I think it was mostly signability and a little bit some questions about where he would go. If people thought he was a shortstop, I don't think he gets to 5.
Yeah, well – I think Blue Jays fans are happy that he did fall there because they're seeing the bat, they're seeing the numbers, not the power per se, but the average and the steals and the versatility at the plate. What makes him such a good hitter?
He's just a complete package offensively. I think he just sees the ball really well, which allows him, he's very good control of strike zone. He's got a quick bat, really good hand-eye coordination. He doesn't try to do too much at the plate. Now, I do think, the raw power is probably average. And usually you don't get to all you have raw power and then you have usable power.
Right.
And unless you're a really gifted hitter, the guy with average raw power probably has below average power in games. I actually think his power is going to play closer to average because I think he's such a good hitter. He's going to get to all of his raw power. And, depending on what you want to do, it's not going to make this sound more simple than it sounds. But so we have him as a 65 or 70 hitter on the 20-80 scouting scale and 50 power. I do think he's gifted enough that if he changed his approach, and again, this is much harder than I'm making it sound. You can't just
of course.
slide the sliders. Hey, I'm going to make myself a solid hitter and plus power. But I do think he's gifted enough that if he wanted to, and he could put the barrel on the ball, if he wanted to add launch angle and turn the swing loose a little bit more, that, he might be a 25 home run guy, maybe a 280 hitter. But I think right now he's probably a guy who's going to be that 320 home run type of guy. And, and he draws a lot of walks. He led the SEC in hitting and on-base percentage last year. It's the best conference in college baseball. He's a winner. He competes, good makeup. I'm not too worried about the defense. money aside, I would have taken him number 2 if I was drafting, if I could just have whoever I wanted from the top. And I do think he's athletic enough. We'll see on the arm. I don't really think he's going to wind up playing shortstop just because there aren't too many guys who don't play shortstop at all in college who wind up playing shortstop in the big leagues. Paul DeYoung is like a rare exception, and he's not, he's capable, but he's not like a gold glove shortstop. Right. He's in the lineup because of his bat. Right. Could he play third? Yeah, maybe. I mean, you need some arm strength there. The arm's going to have to improve. But, like, if Austin Martin winds up being either a solid center fielder, or I think he'd be a really good second baseman, those are still 2 up the middle positions, and the bat's going to play. So I'm not – I mean, you'd love for him to be a shortstop, but if he's a second baseman or a center fielder, it's not going to bother me. It'll be interesting with all the infielders Toronto has where everybody takes out.
Well, I was going to ask you, just about that young core in Toronto now. Vlad Guerrero, Bo Bichette, Kevin Biggio, Nate Pearson on the way, obviously at the pitching spot. And you add Austin Martin, who seems to be a pretty good prospect for the future as well. Where does that young core rank amongst baseball's best?
It's really good. I can't remember. I know we had the Blue Jays ranked pretty highly as a farm system as a whole. But some of those guys graduated to the big leagues. But if you're talking like if we were to rank, say, 25 and under talent, and then you're counting, Vlad and Bichette in there too, and guys like that. I mean, it's got to be one of the top 5 young nucleuses in baseball. I mean, it's been really impressive. They've obviously gotten a lot of guys there. Nate Pearson's going to be there. I mean, it'll be interesting. I mean, I hope we have a season going pretty soon.
Right.
We also, before it ended, the last day I spent spring training was in Dunedin, and the talk was about how great Nate Pearson looked and how if you were just going on talent and what he was doing in spring training, you should be on the team, but you have the dreaded service time consideration. So who knows? But I think we'll see Nate Pearson in Toronto pretty quickly.
How long, as we track back to Austin Martin here, do you expect him to be in the minors? Or what's an ideal length of time for him to play in the minors before maybe making the jump to the bigs? Because Toronto fans are already like, call him up, because that's the joke. That's the joke around here, of course.
I mean, if you called him up, I don't think he'd be a star or anything right away, but I think he could handle himself at the plate. Huh? I think part of it depends on the defensive development. If they take him as shortstop and try that is going to take a little bit longer. If you put him at second or center, that might take less. The wild card is, in a normal year, I mean, Austin Martin would have been playing in A-ball somewhere this year. Who knows? I mean, I think we'll get some kind of complex-based baseball for each organization's top prospects at some point if everything goes well. So, I mean, that'll slow him down a little, but I mean, realistically, even with a slowdown, I think he's in the big leagues probably 2022 early. It may be like one of those service time deals where it's like, okay, do we? And part of it could depend if the Blue Jays are contending in 2022. If you don't play any games, you call them up. The other thing is we're going to have a new CBA. I don't have any idea how lazy it's going to be to work that out or what's going to be in it. But I think one of the issues the players want to address is the service time manipulation. Yeah. So maybe that'll be a thing of the past. But I think we'll see him pretty early in 2022.
Well, here's hoping there is baseball before then, obviously, and more so this year than not. Jim, though, we appreciate your insights and your time here. And, again, hopefully you're covering games at a park sooner than later.
Yeah, I hope so, too. So I hope to run into you somewhere. Maybe we'll run into each other watching some of these Blue Jays youngsters. And Nate Pearson in Toronto.
Yes,
so,
yes. Watch out for this pitch. Okay, that's it. Thanks, Jim.